Okay, today we're doing Module 1, Lesson 5, where we're looking at how to write and read decimals in different forms. So we're going to look at expanded form, word form, we're going to look at unit form, standard form, just like different ways of writing and reading numbers. So let's do a little bit as practice for each type. So this first one, we're given numbers written in word form and fraction form, and we're trying to write them in as decimal numbers. They just want regular standard form numbers. There's an example for this first one. 5 thousandths is 0.005, or 5 thousandths is 5 thousandths. So I put a place value chart in here because it really helps us understand where our numbers fit and our place value. And this is why all of our place value charts have these headings on the top, because they remind us of what the different columns are called. What's the value? So if we're looking at B, where it's 35 thousandths, I'm going to find the thousandths on my place value chart, which is right here. Thousandths. And it says it's 35 thousandths. So I can't write it like this. I can't have 35 being one column, because really those 30 thousandths need to be cashed in for hundredths, because I can take 10 of them and cash them in for hundredths, and I can only have that one digit in each column. 35 needs to be split up. This 3 needs to become a hundredth, so it really needs to be written as 35. The last digit, in this case the 5, should be in the thousandths place. That's the general rule. The last digit of your number should be in the naming column. So it is 35 thousandths. Now I need to fill in some zeros here, because right now it just looks like 35. So I need to fill in the zeros until we get to the decimal. And so it's 0.035, which is also commonly written as 0.035. We put that leading zero in the front to sandwich that decimal so it doesn't look like a period. So 35 thousandths we can write as 0.035. Let's try another one. Let's do C. 9 and 235 thousandths. So 9, when there's an and, we want to break up at that and look at them almost as two separate numbers. We've got 9 and then I have 235 thousandths. The 9 and when we're writing in word form means decimal. So that means it's going to be 9 in the ones place and then the rest of my answer. The and is the decimal. The rest of my number is 235 thousandths. So again, I'm going to end in the thousandths place, and I'm going to write 235 thousandths. Now I can't fit all three of those numbers into the thousandths place. Remember, I'm just going to have the last digit be in the thousandths place. So I'm going to put the 5, and then I can fill in the other parts. So I get 9.235, or 9 and 235 thousandths. 9.235. Now you can also go from a fraction to a decimal. Like if we look at E, 8 thousandths is what this tells me. It's 8 over 1,000. Well, 8 thousandths means we have 8 in the thousandths place. 8 in the thousandths place means I need to fill these with zeros, and so it's 0.008. Decimals and fractions are very easily to go back and forth between, because fractions are decimals, just written in a different way. If you have a mixed number, like 7, like G, 7 and 528 thousandths. So you heard me say 7 and. 7 is our whole, and is our decimal. So we have 7 wholes and 528 thousandths. That 8 needs to end in the thousands place, so it's going to be 528, 7.528. So that's how you go from different types of expressions, word and fraction, to a decimal. Now we can go the other way. We can go back into words from decimals. So if we look at A, 0.008, I like to fill it out in my place value chart. So it tells me, I can see the words, where does this 8 fall? This 8 falls in thousands. There's no ones, there's no tenths, there's no hundreds. It's just the 8. So this is just 8 thousandths. So if we wanted to write it in words, we would say 8 thousandths. So we're just taking that thousandths, and because 8 is in there. I liked that one. Let's try a harder one though. Let's do one with a whole. Like C. 607, let's fill it out here, 607.409. Now we learned before that this point means we can write as and. So we can treat it as like one number before the decimal, one number after the decimal. The number before the decimal is 607. That's it. We don't need place values for that. It's 607. So I can start by doing that. 600. Actually, we're going to just do 600. Oops. 607. And, because that's our decimal. Now I need to put the decimal in there. Now I see a 409. I want to read it as one number. So if I read it as one number, it's 409. And it's in the thousandths place. So we're going to read it as 409 thousandths. Whatever place your last digit ends in is what you're going to call it. So we're going to call it 409 thousandths. So we have 607 and 409 thousandths. So you treated them as two different numbers. So that's going from decimals to words. Now the other part of this that we're looking at today is expanded form. You've done expanded form with whole numbers, but now we're looking at expanded form in decimals. So if I fill this out, I get 0.362. The reason I'm using the reason I'm using a place value chart is it's just helping me break them up as separate digits. So I can see that there's no wholes, so that's fine. I'll start with my 3. The 3 is in the tenths place. So I'm going to times that by something that gives it that power. So I'm going to times it by 1/10. So 3 times 1/10 represents that 3. Now this 6 is in the hundredths place. So I can do 6 times 100th. And that's the value of 6 hundredths. And then the last one is this 2, and it's in the thousands place. So I can do 2 times 1,000ths to give me 2,000th. Now, expanded form means I multiply these together and then add them. So you want to put parentheses around each little number unit and then add them together. This is called fractions to write the expanded form. You can also treat them as decimals because you can see this as 3 times 1/10 because this is really also 1/10. Or you can do 6 times 100th because this is really 100th. Or you can do 2 times 1,000th. 0.001. You need to be able to recognize both. They're both correct. You can kind of pick the one that you like the most when it's just asking you to do expanded form, but it might ask you specifically to do fractions, or it might ask you to do decimals. But we know that 1/10 is the same thing as 1/10. 100th is 100th. 1,000th is 1,000th. It's just written as a fraction versus a decimal. So these are really the main things we're looking at: expanded form, word form, and decimal form. Those are our kind of main ways we're looking at this, and we're going to practice this some more, but I wanted to expose you to each of those main ways.